Okay, so we have made it to Bridgerton season 1, episode 7, Oceans Apart. So there is still there's tension in the air between the Hastings, and they're doing this whole passive aggressive craziness, right? So she's playing the piano, he's shooting, but he's so close to the house that it's extremely loud and it's kind of distracting her. And so she decides, okay, she's going to open the window, and she's going to continue to play. So her playing is throwing him off, so he's not able to hit his target, and him shooting is annoying her because it's kind of throwing her off. And so they're doing this whole thing. She reaches the end of her song, he stops shooting, and then they give each other the evil eye. Okay, that's what we're doing here, two adults. Okay. Anyway, so they sit down later on that night. They sit down to have dinner, and Daphne was talking to one of the footmen, saying that she wanted them to finish moving her things out of Simon's room into her own room. And initially Simon was like, no, we're not going to do that. And she was like, well, it's customary for after the honeymoon phase that the lady has her own accommodations. And I can say that phase is that the honeymoon is well and truly over. And so before they could finish that conversation, I think it was Mrs. Colson that came in with Lady Whistledown's article. And it is talking about the scandal between Collins and Marina. And so Daphne felt like she needed to be with her family. So she, got up to leave. Simon was decided he was going to go with her. And she initially didn't want him to go. And he basically told her he could deal with separate accommodations, but he's not going to tolerate separate households. And so he went along grudgingly. Okay. So that entire ride, it was quite solemn. They really didn't say too much to each other. And, I feel like Daphne is really, she got on my nerves. Like, seriously, I can understand, I can appreciate her being upset with Simon for feeling like he took advantage of her naivete, and him not explaining the difference between him not being able to have children and him not wanting to have children. So that is, those are two completely different things. And I do think in that sense he did mislead her. But I also feel like you went into that relationship knowing full well that regardless of whether he couldn't physically have children or he just didn't want children, that there was a chance that that there would be no children in that marriage. So it wasn't like he married you and just decided that he didn't want to have children. You knew going in that there was a strong chance that you would not have children. And initially, up until the difference was explained to you, you were okay with that. So I feel like, yes, she has a right to be upset, but do I feel like she needs the way that she's handling the situation is right? No, I don't. So, So, of course, the Whistledown article is out and it's all over town. Of course, people are talking and, they're saying that the engagement was a sham. Of course, Collins is hurt and it's just a mess. Both families are hurt, injured now that this has come out. And unfortunately, around this time, Lady Violet and Eloise were leaving their home the same time Lady Featherington and Marina were leaving the house. And so they live on the same block, so they made eye contact, but Lady Violet just went on and took Eloise on to the shop so that she could have her dress altered. And while they were there talking, Eloise was like, you know what, maybe because with all the scandal, we should prolong my coming out. And of course, Lady Violet doesn't want to do that. You can kind of see people gathering in the shop. They're kind of whispering and looking at them, and like there's some oddities or something. Like it's crazy how I need to start having a bottle of water or something here. it's crazy how things like this, you know, people like what, it's not like they suddenly grew tails or wings or something, but the way these people gather and just gawk at people, it's just so odd. It's really odd. But while they were talking, they started talking about Mrs. Whistledown, and Genevieve was like, yeah, her word is gospel. Like, what she say, people will believe. And so, Eloise was like, well, if she could destroy reputations, then maybe she can repair them as well. And so this is like furthering her drive to try to figure out who Lady Whistledown is. And so, Lady Portia is taking Marina to some house, some convent, or some house somewhere where Marina can go and stay and have the child. And it's supposed to be free, and they work off donations. But because of who they are, the lady was like, if you make a sizable donation, she can stay here. But of course, she's not able to do that because Lord Featherington has squandered the family fortune, and they don't have any money. So she is they're stuck with Marina at this point. So Daphne and Simon, they arrive at her family's home, and he was going to go in with her, but she said, I doubt I'm going to find out whether or not I'm with child in an hour. And she was like, if anything changed, I'll let you know. And she basically slammed the carriage door in his face, and she went on in the house. So while, before she got in the house, of course, they're all sitting around talking. Colin is talking about he wanted to go and visit Marina to find out what's going on. Of course, they were like, absolutely not, absolutely not. The one thing about Lady Whistledown's article, it basically clears you as far as them being able to accuse you of being the father of that child. Now, you sneaking around and going off with her after this has all come out can reflect poorly on your other sisters. Is that what you want to happen? This is Anthony talking to him now. And of course he's saying no, he doesn't want that. So Daphne walks in, and of course they're all surprised to see her. You're supposed to be in wedded bliss, you know, your honeymoon, and like, what are you doing here? And of course she said that, you know, she read about the scandal and felt that they needed her, and that's why she came. And the mom was of course happy that she came, because she felt like if the Duke and Duchess are still on good terms with the family, that would actually reflect better on them. And, you know, everything will be fine. We'll just, you know, pretend like it never happened, and we'll just go on as usual. And Daphne was like, that is the way, isn't it? She said to leave, it's best to leave people ignorant and submissive, or she made some comment to that. And of course, they're kind of like, oh, okay. And the mom was kind of confused. She's kind of looking at her like, what are you talking about? But in the end, they decided that they decided that Carlos wasn't going to see Marina anymore, and the perfect time for them to come out is this party that was going, this upcoming party. And of course, Collins got upset, the Queen's luncheon. And so of course, Collins got upset, was like, okay, well, thank you guys for deciding my life for me. And he stormed out. And so Daphne followed him, and you know, she's still, you know, the wound is still fresh from her feeling betrayed by Simon. And she, you know, feel like, you know, she's telling him that it's better that you find out, it's better that you found out now instead of after after you guys got married. Now, think about what would have happened after that. He could tell that there's something else there, but he didn't really press the issue. And so initially she was like, you can't visit her. But then she said, you know what? I'll arrange a visit, and of course chaperone, because she they don't need to be alone together. And so he agreed to that. And so he didn't go home. He went to see, Simon went to see his friend Wills. And so they're in the ring and they're sparring, and Wills is still talking about these exhibition matches that, you know, he's I guess making a decent money off of. And he's asking Simon like what's going on. Of course they're in the ring and they're, you know, kind of going back and forth. He could tell there's something there, but Simon wasn't really forthcoming, and he basically just let him swing until he just tired himself out. And he was basically saying that you tell him that marriage is complicated, and you know, you gotta basically work through it. Daphne and Simon. Simon eventually. Daphne was already at Hastings' house. Simon arrived home, and she was already settled in her room, and he was going to his room. And she cracked the door, so he saw that she was up, and then she came out. And she started asking him like where he'd been and or whom he was with, and he was like, oh, we've only been married for 3 weeks and you already think me disloyal. And she was like, basically, I wouldn't put anything past you. Like, I feel like Daphne is doing the absolute most. She's doing the absolute most. Like I said again, I understand her being frustrated and but I feel like the way that she's going about this situation is completely ridiculous. And so, so she's doing that, I wouldn't put anything past you. I mean, we do know your history. It's like, why are you throwing his past up in this? You didn't give a damn about his past when you decided to marry him. Hello? I think that part is still, like, she's kind of blocking that part out. And granted, like I said, yes, he lied by omission, or he explained things to you in a way that painted a different picture, yes. But the crux of what he told you was that there was a chance that you would not have children. Like I'm saying, she's acting like he told her that, like, she went into this marriage was told something else, and it's like, no, you went into this marriage knowing that you would not have children. And so she's acting, this is ridiculous. So I have to say that during a portion of this episode, she was quite annoying. And so now you're bringing up his past, which obviously, you didn't care too much about when you married him, but anywho. Okay. And so, they started, talking, and next, they started going at it, and, down there on the stairs, and he goes, do what he do, and she wants to go, go into the bedroom, and he's saying that no, he doesn't want to do that. He basically said if she was pregnant, then of course he's going to do what he's supposed to do. If she's not, then they'll be a husband and wife in name only. And she was like, okay, fine, so that's going to be our marriage where we don't trust each other. I'm like, to be honest, you did kind of trying to put a fast one on. I'm like I said, that's how I feel. Like was he completely honest? No, but like I said, you had enough of an understanding that you would probably not have children. What you did was completely different. So I feel like, no, he don't trust you. You don't trust him either. So let's stop with this craziness. So Daphne is now, Daphne is waiting with Collins for Marina to arrive. Marina arrives, and he basically wants to hear from her, and she confirms that she was pregnant, that, that it was true. And, he's telling her that he loved her, and she's saying that her words were she held him in high esteem, and he was like, esteem, just, obviously, esteem is not the same as I love you. So he took offense to that. And she was basically like, she was sorry for the way that things happened, but she felt like she was, kind of, again, blindsided at what life. And she said no one was there to help me or to try to see me through this. And I was just trying to do the best that I could. And you can see Daphne kind of sitting on the couch, and she could kind of understand that aspect of it, because she felt like she was not, she went out into the world and she wasn't properly prepared. And so she can understand what Marina is saying as far as that's concerned, as far as that area, aspect of it. And she said that she felt like she would, for a time being, felt like she could have a glimpse of happiness with him. And he was like, so what, that I should feel lucky that you chose me to basically try to pull a fast one on? And he basically said that this was going to be the last time we lay eyes on each other. And as he walked to the door, he stopped and he turned, and he said, what's so sad about this, why this is even more hurtful, is that basically I was so in love with you that if you would have told me the truth, I would have married you anyway. And you can kind of see her face and it's like, oh, But again, you know, she has no way of knowing that. She had no way of doing that. So, okay. So he left. And you can see that Daphne felt, you know, you can see Daphne felt bad. And she, Marina basically said she's ready to go. And they, you know, got the carriage for her to take her home. And Rose came in and told her that it's time for her to get ready for the Queen's luncheon. So they get to the Queen's luncheon. Daphne, Simon, and the rest of the Bridgertons walk in. And of course, people are talking. And the Queen, who's quite crass she walks through the crowd, and she, you know, of course they to greet them, and they, you know, bow and do the whole thing, and she's telling them like when they're going to have, you know, are we going to hear about, you know, children soon? And she was like, well, not yet. And Simon is saying that they are working on that and the whole thing, and she ends up walking away. And Daphne says, duplicity comes so easy to you, doesn't it? And you can kind of see, and then he says, I learned from the best. And you can kind of see Lady Violet, she's still standing there. She's confused, like, what is going on between them? But, of course, that's not the time or the place. And so she, you know, she kind of let that go. Kind of flashed between, you know, different things. So the Queen sent her footman over to talk to Eloise, because she, you know, Eloise is supposed to be working on who this lady Whistledown is and getting back to her. So she wanted to see, you know, if Eloise had any updates. And of course she, you know, she didn't have enough information, she didn't have the information that the Queen wanted. And she basically told her that she needs to basically get on the ball and get the information that she needs her to get. And so, of course, she bowed and said, oh, you know, she would do, you know, what she needed to do. Danbury walks over to Simon and Daphne, and they started talking, and she was talking about inviting them to a party. And of course, Daphne initially declined, and Simon said, we'd love to be there. And she was like, oh, I wasn't talking to you. It's a party for wives. And since you're the newest member, you're the newest married, yeah, I wanted you to come. I'm inviting her, so it's basically women only. And she agreed. She agreed to go. And so the Featheringtons arrive, and of course, people are whispering and talking like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they would show their face," and "Oh, I can't believe," and it wasn't Cressida. I can't. It wasn't her. I think it was the woman standing next to her that said, I can't believe, you know, they tried to trap Collins, and, you know, this whole thing. And Eloise saw them, and Eloise pulled Penelope to the side, and, you know, they started talking, and she's saying that she's going to find out who this Mrs. Whistledown is, because she wants to, for no other reason, to restore her friend's family name, namely, you know, Penelope. If she could restore their name, then it would make things better for her friend. And so that's basically what she was saying when she was getting her dress, when Genevieve was working on her dress. And she's saying that if Lady Whistledown can, you know, destroy reputations, then she can repair them as well. And so you see Lady Portia over there trying to talk to Lady Violet, and Lady Violet wasn't trying to hear nothing she was saying. She basically tried to blame everything on Marina and how she's a hussy and all of this stuff. And Lady Violet is just looking at her and just, she wasn't having none of it. Like, girl, you knew that girl was trying to trap my son. If she could say what she really wanted to say, you know. And so eventually the Queen sent her footman over and basically asked the Featheringtons to leave. And Lady Portia said that we have an invitation. And he was like, not anymore. So they were, they were kicked out. They were asked to leave. And of course, what are they going to do but leave? Eventually Daphne goes off by herself, and she's walking through the garden. And her mother follows behind her, and then they started talking because she could see that something was going on with Daphne. And Daphne started telling her, like, why didn't you prepare me for marriage and being a wife? And, you know, basically I feel like a fool, and I feel like, you've made me look like a fool by, you know, keeping me ignorant and the whole thing. And she really didn't know what to say to her. So while they're going back and forth, they saw Lady Danbury walk by, and Daphne just, you know, they ended the conversation, and Daphne just ran off. And so Lady Violet was like, oh, it's the heat. I just think it's the heat. You know, she's exhausted, the whole thing. But Lady Danbury ain't stupid. But of course, the polite thing to do was to ignore it, right? So back at the Featheringtons, Lady Portia went into the study to talk to Lord Featherington, and she was, of course, upset because they were asked to leave. And she was telling him how it was all his fault. And he was like, how was it my fault? I wasn't even there. She was like, because if you didn't have these problems, then we would have been able to get rid of Marina a long time ago. And so while they were talking, one of the maids came in and said that Duchess Hastings was there. And so, of course, she was surprised. So she went to go and talk to her. And she, Daphne was actually there to speak with Marina. And so while she was talking to Marina, Marina was telling her that who the father was, Sir George, and Daphne was asking her, do you know where he is, or do you know where? And she obviously she didn't know, and she was saying how the general's wife was in town, and she's going to be at Lady Danbury's party, and so she is working on now trying to get some communication to Sir George to find out like what he's going to do. She felt like at this point Marina doesn't have anything to lose. You're not going to get married. You're not going to find a suitable suitor, and if we can get him to do the right thing, that'll be all the better for you. Lord Featherington is out walking, and he saw the promotion for one of Will's exhibition matches, and so he went to Will's to discuss a business opportunity. He wants Will to throw his next match. So he wants to make a deal with Will where he bets whatever amount, that he never said the amount, and that if Will throws the match, then of course Will will make a portion of that. And he's saying that the amount of money that he's going to put down, him and Will's will be set for life. And Will's basically told him that my honor is not for sale. And then he started going in to berate Wills about how, nobody's ever going to take you serious as a real business person. And, what would your father think? Your father fought in the war only for his son to get involved with basically these little petty matches where he could barely take care of his family. He was like really going all for him, right? And then, of course, Wills ended up jacking his behind up, but he basically told him, don't you ever talk about my family again. And he was like, he quickly realized the error of his ways. And, but he basically said that this deal will set you up for the rest of your life. And you can kind of see his wheels turning, like, you should think, okay, is he going to really go into business with this fool? Like, do you really trust him? Okay. We'll see about that. So Daphne arrives at Lady Danbury's party. She was surprised to see that, all these corseted women and their hair all coiffed and the makeup and the face beat, and they're all, got the cigars and the liquor and the cards, and they was having them a merry old time, honey. And so she sat Daphne at the table with Kitty Langdon, which is the general's wife. Of course, she sat there. Lord Granville's, what's her name? Lord Granville's wife. And there was another woman. And of course they, talked and played, and of course they explained the game to her. And she seemed like she had a really good time. And so she started talking to Kitty Langdon about, trying to get, communicate with her wife, communicate with her husband and try to find the soldier. And she was like, well, you would have to write to him because she's like, I barely see or talk to my husband. And she was like, well, don't the kids miss him? And she was like, it's hard to miss somebody you don't know. She's not at all sad. She's like, I get all the benefits of marriage without having to deal with my husband. And so Lady Lady Danbury's like, you have to forgive her. She's still in the bloom, basically, of her romance, right? And so she don't understand these things. But she was like, girl, you gonna have to write to him. I don't talk to him like that. I lives my life, so yeah. But I'll tell you where you can write to him. So she ends up giving her, the information so she can write to him. So it was only a matter of time before this happened. So Simon and Anthony, they're at their little club, And he's talking to Simon, and he's saying that I know, basically I know something that's happened. This is Anthony saying that I know something's happened. Daphne is upset. And yeah, while she makes mistakes, she don't mess up that bad. And Simon's basically telling him that, he doesn't really want to go into the details of what, their situation. Because, really, it's nobody's business. He ends up telling, asking Simon, don't you ever get tired of being perfect? While you mess around with this singer that you think nobody knows about, and stop talking to me like you don't have your faults as well. And Simon says to him, he did hit below the belt. He said, don't you? He was like, you never, because your father was so absent, you never knew, you were never taught how to head a household. And anything having to deal with his father is a sore spot for him. And so he ends up going into him like, when you make it look so difficult. And he's like, what are you talking about? He basically tells him that you basically haven't held up to, you had a father, and you still fell down on the job. You still falling down on the job. And do you think that he would be happy with the way that you've conducted yourself and how you've led your family? Basically, that's what he was saying. And then, of course, all hell broke loose, and they started fighting. They gave as good as they got, and of course, people jumped in to break it up. So he's back home. He's in his room tending his wounds, and Daphne arrives home from the party, and she could see that he was injured. And he basically says that he got injured sparring with Will, so he didn't throw Anthony under the bus. Well, at this point, what would be the point? And she walked in to help him, and she was like, with brothers, I've seen my share of cuts. And so she started helping him, and of course, it kind of progressed, and he stopped it before it could, go any further. And she basically asked him to explain why he was so against, having children. And he told her that, his father cared more about the family line continuing than he ever did about his own wife or his child. And he made a vow to his dad on his deathbed that that the line would end with him. And she says that you don't want the happiness that both of us can have because of a vow that you made to your father. She was like, well, what about the vows that you made to me? And he basically said that he just couldn't. He couldn't do it. And so she said that, well, they say courses. Of course, we say cycle today, our cycle. But their course, she said, my courses are due in 2 days. So we'll know which vow you broke. And she walked out, and she, of course, again, upset. And I'm not saying she doesn't have a right to have a right to not, be upset. But I do think that it is time for Simon to let it go. But at the same time, when you've been through to have that kind of trauma, it's kind of difficult to, it's easy for a person on the outside to tell you how you should handle things, but honey, that's all internal. You got to figure that stuff out on your own. And I feel like it's time for him to figure that out. Like, what kind of life do you want? At this point, it's not about your father. He's dead and gone. She made that point too. But, at the same time, you don't want a situation where a child comes into the picture and he resents a child that he never wanted. And I think that's also an aspect that she's overlooking in her desires. It's okay for you to want the child, and it's okay for you to feel like I said, feel how she feel. But at the same time, she's so focused on that she's not even thinking about what kind of relationship you think that he's going to have with a child that he doesn't want. So it's a lot. That's complicated. That's a whole complicated situation. So the next day, Daphne pinned the letter. So it was like going through like a flash of different things. So Daphne pinned the letter and she gave it to her maid to have it delivered. Will is at the gym, and you can see like people are sparring behind him. You can see that he's still kind of pondering whether or not he's going to take Featherington up on his offer. I would say no, but at the end of the day, what do I know? I would say don't do it. Marina is kind of, she's in her room and she's kind of, you can see, going over her options in her situation, and she's, I guess, just trying to figure things out. The Queen is reading Lady Whistledown's paper, and where Lady Whistledown would report on everything, she did not report anything on the Queen's luncheon, which really pissed the Queen off. And so now it's more of revenge, that she wants to find this Lady Whistledown even more, because she felt slighted because her luncheon wasn't mentioned in the latest publication. Simon and Daphne are basically avoiding each other. They're passing each other in the hall, and they greet each other, but they they don't really stay to have any type of conversations, and they basically go on with their lives. Now, it's interesting, because when she ignores him, obviously she'll say something, she'll go and she'll say good morning or whatever, and she'll turn and walk or keep on going where she's going. But when he does it to her, she is just so offended and taken aback, which I found interesting. And that happened a couple of times. So yeah, there's still the whole passive aggressive thing. So the silent treatment. So she woke up, I guess, on the day that her courses were supposed to start, and nothing. And so he went into the room, and he walked into a room, and he didn't see anything on the sheets. And so she is like, okay, so I could actually be pregnant. So he's probably like, okay, so what now? So Eloise is over, Penelope is over at Eloise's house, and they're talking, and they're trying to figure out, it has to be a servant, or they're trying to decide, like, who could it be, because they're trying to figure out who told Whistledown about Marina, because Penelope is saying everybody in the house knew, but how many of them would have has a direct line to Whistledown? So they're still trying to figure out who it could be. Daphne and Marina. So Daphne went to talk to Marina, and she let her know that she wrote. And Daphne was like, well, did the Duke sign? And Daphne was kind of offended, like, well, I'm a Duchess. So, and Marina had to tell her, like, you really don't understand how things work. Men don't listen to women. If the Duke would have signed, it would have carried more weight. She was like, he's not going to respond to you. So she basically thanked her for her efforts, but she really isn't holding out. This Marina is really not holding out any hope that she's going to get a reply. And if she does get a reply, it's not going to be a favorable one. Anthony and Collins, they're finally sitting down to talk after, their last conversation, where Anthony said that he wasn't going to give Collins his blessing, and he apologized for being harsh with him. And he basically gave him the, time heals all kind of speech, like, I understand that you're hurt now, but things will, get better. And then, eventually you will find a suitable partner, when, after, I guess, a decent amount of time has passed, and you're able to get past this. And once we're able to get past this as a family. And that was nice that they were able to have, that conversation. Lady Violet and Eloise is now, Eloise is all dolled up. She looks completely different. I mean, she's always cute, but she looks like a lady. She had her hair all swept up in her new gown. I mean, she looked beautiful. And, but Lady Violet told her that, with everything that's going on, she was like, I understand how you feel about these things. And if you're not ready to do this, then I'm not going to force you. And she said, is the Queen going to be at the theater tonight? She said, yes. So she wanted to go so she could talk to the Queen about what her speculations about who Lady Whistledown is. Simon, at Hastings Manor, Daphne is looking at herself in the mirror, and you can kind of see her rubbing her stomach, like thinking of what could be. And Simon walks in, he kind of watches her for a while, and then he tells her that, it's time for them to go. And so they leave for the party. So Benedict is talking with Granville. And he was asking him, he wanted clarification on what he actually saw and what's going on. And Granville he admitted that he is in love with Lord Weatherby. And Benedict asked what about your wife? And he said, my wife has all the freedom and protection that she wants. You know, it's a very amicable situation that we have. We don't have any issues. He said, so what about Lord Weatherby, who's still out, courting women? I think he's still looking for a wife. And he said, what about honor and romance? And Lord Granville told him, what would you know about that? He was like, I risk my life every day for love. Because, at this point it's still illegal. And if it came out, it would ruin him and his family. And it'd be a whole scandal. And so he's saying that I risk everything for love. He's like, do you know what it's like to be in a room with a person you love and you can't talk to them? And, all your movements, your movements has to be planned out. Like, you have to make sure that nobody's watching, even if you want to look at the person. It's the whole thing. And he's saying that you just have to be brave. And he was like, can you be brave, or is it all talk? This is what Lord Granville said to Benedict. And so the Queen is now talking to Eloise, and Eloise is giving her assumptions, and of course it's not happy. The Queen isn't happy, and she finally said that she hired some investigators to find out who Whistledown is, and she wants to basically bring her to heel. And so Eloise is like, so what do you mean? You want to hurt her, or you want to stop her from publishing? And of course that's not what Eloise wants. She just wanted to know who this woman was, because this woman, she kind of idolizes this woman, and she kind of envisions this woman having the kind of life that she wants, this kind of freedom to say what she wants, and in her mind do what she wants, even though she doesn't know this woman. So she kind of idolized this woman. So the idea of stopping her, that was never Eloise's plan. But now that she knows that's the Queen's plan, she's like, okay. And so basically the Queen told her that I no longer need your services. So that was that. And so Eloise and Benedict, Eloise asked Benedict, well, how long is this show supposed to be? I think he said like 3 or 4 hours. She was like, oh my God. And so she was like, but he was ready to go. Luckily he was ready to go, so she could leave with him. So she was really happy. So they're in the carriage, and he decided that he's going to be brave. And they decided to make a stop on the way so he can pick someone up. And the person he picked up was Genevieve. And so, when Genevieve got into the carriage, she was like, when they pulled up to the shop first, Eloise was confused, like, what are we doing here? And then Genevieve got in, and of course Genevieve was surprised to see Eloise, because she thought it was just going to be her and Benedict. And so, it was kind of an awkward silence for a while. And Genevieve asked her how her night went. And Eloise basically said everyone was there, but I didn't have a single meaningful conversation. And Genevieve was like, everyone except the Featheringtons. And something clicked in Eloise's head. She was going back to when Penelope said that everyone in the house, all the servants knew about Marina, and she flashed to when Genevieve said that whatever Whistledown says is the gospel, like people take it as the truth. And I might have to rewatch that, because I didn't immediately make the connection, but something connected for her. And I think Benedict asked her if she was okay, and seemed like she was quite fine. And so, we get to the theater scene, and again, it's kind of flashing between, different things going on. And so, the show starts, and Anthony is in the balcony with his mother, and then he looks down and he sees Sienna. So Sienna is back in town, but she's sitting next to another gentleman, and so we'll see how that goes. Marina is in the kitchen, and she has now thrown together all of some concoction that she has decided to drink. I don't know if it was to commit suicide, or if it was to kill the baby. I don't know. Simon and Daphne, they're in their box, and eventually he reaches over to grab her hand, and she smiles like, okay, maybe he's becoming more accepting of the situation. And then you kind of see her face change, and she got up and she ran off. And Penelope goes to Marina's room. She knocks on the door, no answer. She walks in and she saw Marina on the floor, unconscious. And so she starts screaming for her mother. Lady Portia walks in and she kind of just stands there and she's kind of looking. Like, I think she was probably thinking, like, if she died right now, it would solve all our problems. And I hope that's... We don't know yet. We don't know what's going on with Marina. But I was glad to see Daphne, Penelope was quite scared and doing what she could. And then you flash to Daphne. Daphne walked into, I guess, the ladies' room, and she checked, and her cycle started. And her mom walked in shortly after, and she started bawling, and her mother just basically, she understood what was going on. And she basically cried, and her mother held her, and Simon I think he kind of knew too that she wasn't, and that's basically how this episode ended. So I mean, it was quite sad. I felt bad for her, but at the same time, I also felt like if she was pregnant, that I don't know if that would have made things better. I think it would have made things more contentious between her and Simon. So I don't know. I'm torn. I mean, like I said, that's a complicated situation. But yeah, that's how this episode ended. I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.